Welcome. In this video, we're going to be going over a case study about how this 8-figure activewear brand in e-commerce grew during a cost of living crisis and saved $1 million in yearly revenue with retention marketing. Let's get right into it. So if you haven't already, my YouTube has tons of free videos just like this, going over different case studies, different retention marketing tips and tricks. So head over there and throw a subscribe. We've done this for more than 100 ecom brands. If you're wondering why you should even watch this or why you should even listen to me, I've been email marketing for over 6 years, worked with more than 100 brands handling their email and SMS and retention marketing. So context, this case study is about an activewear brand called Leelo Active. Leelo Active is an Aussie-grown 8-figure activewear brand. When they first started with us, their email marketing was pretty solid. They were doing about 30 to 35% of revenue through their email marketing channel, which most people would be happy with, but they had a full stack agency who was running their Klaviyo. Now, what do I mean by full stack agency? Someone who does all the services. So they run Facebook ads, Google ads, they do your email and SMS, they encompass a whole bunch of different services. This agency was not a specialist in retention, and Leelo knew they were leaving cash on the table. So around September last year, 2024, they reached out to us to take over their Klaviyo account. What they didn't know was that this was going to end up being another $1 million plus in yearly additional revenue. Now, before I get started on the problem, a little bit more about myself. My name is Angus Cowan. I run an agency called marketingemails.com. Like I said, we've worked with over 100 brands handling their email and SMS, primarily through the software Klaviyo. I've been email marketing personally for 6 years, so I get to see a lot of different businesses like this. I get to work with a lot of different e-com stores in unique situations, helping them grow and improve their retention marketing. So let's dive into the problem. Leelo Active had already built quite an empire. They were doing over 8 figures a year in the activewear space, which is one of the most competitive spaces in e-commerce. Pretty much everywhere you go, you'll find a new activewear brand. Every day there's new ones popping up. You go to the gym and there's a million different people wearing a million different brands. So that's a unique situation in itself, just how competitive this niche is. But operating at 8 figures a year in revenue, they were definitely feeling the growing pressure of escalating advertising costs. At this scale, a 5 to 10% swing in CAC, LTV, AOV, this can have massive impacts on the bottom line. Like when you're doing 8 figures a year, 5% swings either way in those key metrics can really have huge impacts on the revenue and your profit. But despite their substantial revenue, they recognized there was a critical gap in their marketing approach, which was their customer retention. They knew their Klaviyo account was not being optimized. The current agency, like I mentioned, was a full stack marketing agency. They were doing their ads, their socials, their website, and their email. And in theory, this is fine. Like there is sort of upsides, I guess, to having a full stack agency. But the truth is, agencies like this typically lack the depth and expertise to get high level results from each individual channel. They usually have one key strength, like they'll be really good at ads, or the founder who started the agency in the first place started it on the back of their success with paid advertising or performance marketing. Then they just go on to add the other services as a bonus. Essentially, they're not specialists in a lot of the services that they offer. And Leelo understood this. They knew their email channel was good, but not great. And you can't just have good retention marketing when you're doing 7, 8, 9 figures per year in revenue. Good is the enemy of great, and this just costs significant upside. And Leelo understood that bringing customers back for repeat purchases was going to be vital as they continue to scale. Like if you want to take a brand from 8 to 9 figures a year, you need to be holding on to all of the customers you acquire. And without a comprehensive strategy, these efforts were not moving the needle on retention metrics or generating significant additional revenue. They knew how to create visually appealing emails, but their results definitely fell short of what they could achieve if they had a good strategy, which was actually focused on creating more repeat customers and encouraging repeat customers to return more consistently. The reality is for ecom brands is that 70% of people are probably only ever going to buy once. That's just the reality. And a lot of this hinges on the ability for your product to be great and well received, how you're positioned in the market against competitors, the customer experience, the sustainability of your niche. Like a lot of these things are going to impact the ability for people to come back and purchase in the first place, regardless of how strong your email and SMS is. But if you can just improve your email and SMS and use this to boost your retention, you will see substantial upside. And that's sort of my next point here, which is successfully implementing an email strategy would allow them to drive substantial additional revenue without having to increase their ad spend, improve cash flow predictability through regular repeat purchases, increase customer lifetime value through higher repeat customer rates or return rates, and retain and gain market share in the competitive niche as they lose less customers as they continue to scale. And the challenge was clear. Like all these things are very clear to most e-com stores. Like most people know they need to do this, and the goal is pretty straightforward. Just improve it. And for Leelo Active, like I said, these swings can make a massive impact. So small improvements in customer retention and conversion rates could dramatically improve cash flow and profitability at their scale. Each customer brought back through effective email marketing was just dollars that they did not need to spend on ads, which directly improved their profit margins. Without a dedicated program, they were just leaving money on the table and bleeding customers while continuing to invest heavily in extremely expensive customer acquisition. So, long story short, they hired us to lean into their email marketing channel and drive some really good retention. The goal, we want to increase performance by at least 30%. We want to support large drop days to increase sell-through rate of new collections and identify and fix holes in the current customer journey. So let's go over our partnership in chronological order and how it sort of all unfolded. This was their starting point. As you can see, they were experiencing quite a downturn in their email channel. Total revenue was down about 12%. Attributed revenue was down about 29%. And the goal was to identify essentially where these holes are and get this back on track. Let me just zoom out a little bit for you. So like I said, the goals were to identify where these holes were and to get it back on track. We found that the flows were underperforming. As you can see, they were doing less than 50% of revenue, which is not advisable for a store that's doing big numbers. The sign-up form was not optimized, which we'll get to. And there was large gaps in between the sending cadence of campaigns, which we'll also get to. We were coming in hot into Q4. Like I said, this was around September, October. We started partnering together. So we had to start preparing for Black Friday, Boxing Day, all the other sort of seasonality of the sales season that happens in Q4, which is so vital for e-com stores. And we wanted to juggle preparation for Q4 while also fixing the usual issues that we're facing in the business as usual or the evergreen months. So let's just jump straight into Q4 result. By the time 2024 was done, so about 2 months of partnering together, we'd seen substantial impact measuring year-on-year performance. Now, this isn't just measuring like period versus period performance. We're not measuring November and December versus September and October, as obviously November and December is going to be stronger with these sale periods. But we're measuring year-on-year performance. So how did they go in 2024 Q4 versus how they went in 2023 Q4? We were up 84% on total on the year, and we were up 102% through their email and SMS, which is a massive needle mover compared to what happened in 2023 with their Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Boxing Day sales. So this was a massive success right off the bat. We'll touch on this strategy a little bit in the coming sort of slides, but I do want to say that Black Friday and Q4 sales season is not the reason for this case study. It is not an accurate representation of good BAU, business as usual performance, but it was a testament to how much better the email and SMS channel did under us in 2024 sales season versus 2023. But coming into January, we wanted to tighten the ship and get back to business as usual, while also beginning to fix up all the core flows, getting into normal sending routines and patching the holes we were speaking about. So the first step to do this is going to be the sign up form. And why is that? Well, it's probably the highest lever for most e-com brands. It's, in my opinion, probably is the biggest lever for an e-com brand when it comes to their email and SMS and their retention marketing. If you can increase your opt-in rate without giving away a larger offer, so for example, say you're running 10% off the first order right now and you're getting 2% of people opt into the sign up form. If you can keep your 10% off offer and get 5% of people to opt in, you're essentially collecting more emails and increasing the amount of traffic you convert into a first time purchase. And the more you convert on the front end, the lower your CAC gets. Take this chart. So holding all else consistent. So say you're getting 1,000 visitors a day, you're spending $1,000 on ads. At 2% conversion, your CAC's 50. At 3% conversion, your CAC's $33. 4%, 5%, 6%, so on. As you can see, as you improve your conversion rate, your CAC decreases. It's obvious maths. And most e-com owners already know this maths, but they still neglect to act on this fact that if you get more traffic to leave their emails, you will eventually convert more of them into customers. And as you convert more of them, you decrease your CAC and you become a whole lot more profitable. This makes the upside of improving your sign-up form rate extremely high. Like I said, so many brands neglect this. They just throw a sign-up form out there and they don't even know what it's converting at. And like I said, if you just improve your opt-in without having to alter the offer, so you're giving away the same amount, but you're getting more people to opt in and you're converting more of this traffic, your CAC starts to decrease and your ads become more profitable. This is one of the biggest weapons of email and SMS. Now, let's look at their sign-up form results. So straight away, I wanted to start testing their sign-up form. It was already solid. It was bouncing around 5 to 6% opt-in back in September once we started partnering, which is like, that's no small feat. 5%, a lot of brands probably wish they were there. But now in February, about a few weeks before I'm filming this video, it was bouncing around 9 to 12%, essentially a 2x on their opt-ins without having to change the offer whatsoever. And for a brand of this size, that's an extra 7,000 email subscribers per month. Assuming a 2% conversion rate on these 7,000 over time, this change alone was worth an extra $25,000 per month in revenue. One change, one simple change to the pop-up form, A/B testing it. We began testing it. We got it to 9 to 12% without having to do anything dramatic whatsoever. That is an extra 300 grand thereabouts in revenue per year just off testing the sign-up form. That sort of shows, I guess, the swings of like what I was talking about, like small swings for an 8-figure brand lead to massive changes in revenue. And these are swings that most brands aren't even tapping into. Next, after we sort of nailed the sign-up forms, the next sort of thing was the campaigns. So the overall results, goals of the campaigns, let's just touch straight on these. The changes we made in the campaigns were some of the most significant in the entire account. Let's look at some of their campaigns from September, in the month before we took over. So this is a screenshot of some of the campaigns from September, as you can see here. Let me move my head for you. So as you can see, they had very, very complex segmenting strategy. There's so many different segments going on here. You'd almost assume that whoever was doing the segmenting didn't really know what they were doing and was just clicking any sort of random segments. Open rate solid, click rate solid, orders are solid. Take a look at the cadence as well. This is the entirety of September, and there was only 6 emails, and they're an 8-figure brand. So that's not something to ignore either. Like I said, a few things to note here. The complexity of the segmenting. There was about anywhere between 19 and 24,000 people opening these emails, and you can sort of see the amount of sales here. Now, take a look at our first 3 campaigns. 30 to 35,000 people opening them. Dramatic improvements. Simple, broad segmenting. There's like one line of segmenting here compared to when you look up at all of these. And mind you, let's look at the sales. Let's compare the sales from the campaigns. You might look at our 3 and be like, okay, 8,000, 6,000, 12,000. Oh, but up here they had 11,000, 9,000, 11,000, 16, 15. So didn't the people up here make more sales? This was 6 campaigns in an entire month. This was 3 campaigns over the course of 4 days. Which brings me to my next point. The agency before us was literally sending product launches. Inside these emails were product launches and 25% flash sales. This campaign that attributed $16,000 in revenue was a 25% off flash sale. We did $12,000 on a campaign, which was just highlighting evergreen bundles that they have. We did $8,000 on this campaign, which was just highlighting best-selling products from summer. We did $6,000 on this campaign, which was just showing some UGC. We sent 3 emails in a 4-day period with no new products and no new promotions and nearly matched the amount of revenue that they did in an entire month. And what's even sillier is that these guys were doing product launches and flash sales and only getting 23,000 people to open them because they were sending to narrow segments because they had no idea what they were doing with their segmenting. So they're getting 23,000 opens and only 15 grand from a promotional campaign offering 25% off. We're getting 30,000 opens and 12 grand of sales just from an evergreen campaign with no crazy offer and just like very, very simple design. Now, this really translates into bigger performance during Black Friday. So we did have a goal for BFCM, and it was to beat 2023 by 100%. As I sort of touched on earlier, we did exactly that, an extra 100% year-on-year growth. Now, look at some of the big numbers from the campaigns here. This is a result of us broadening our segmenting pre-Black Friday, really tapping into the wider part of the email list, which was not tapped into in the past agency. Like I said, the past agency were launching products, trying to send to the entire list, but because they didn't understand the segmenting whatsoever, were only getting a minimal amount of opens and a minimal amount of sales. We're able to launch Black Friday with 30% off and do 125 grand in sales from one campaign. The follow-up, 40 grand. The follow-up after that, 27 grand. The email before that, 80 grand. Like there's massive amount of engagement in sales. Obviously this is Black Friday, but you can sort of see the benefit of expanding your segmenting and what actually happens when you know what you're doing. Like the last agency, launch a new product. They launch 25% off. They think they're sending to the whole list and they get like a measly 14, 15 grand in sales for an 8-figure brand. We actually send to the whole list during Black Friday and get 125 grand. It makes a difference, especially when you see we grew 102% versus that full stack agency's results back in 2023. Now, How did we sort of achieve these results over all of November and December? I can just tell you we opened our segmenting, but there was a bit more to that. We sent 48 campaigns over November and December. We opened up the segmenting and kept it broad. Super simple through this sales season here, as you can see. Active subscribers, master segment, active subscribers. Just super simple. Keep it broad, keep it healthy. We mixed in plain text emails, something they weren't doing before. And we were able to maintain momentum with 7 days of Christmas in between Cyber Monday and Boxing Day. It's important to sort of get creative through this period. Most brands just see huge drop off after Cyber Monday and between Boxing Day. We kept that momentum by launching a 7-day of Christmas, 7 different deals. Then we obviously finished the year strong with a Boxing Day sale. We come in 44% of revenue from email marketing in November, December, up 102% year on year. Now, let's look at the campaigns we've sent in 2025. I don't want to just sit here and flex what we did on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, as that's a period of really strong offers and it's a period of high buying intent. But what happened in business as usual? So after Q4, we enter 2025. Most stores have a significant downturn to start 2025. And in Australia, that's been increasingly evident this year due to economic factors. We're in a bit of a cost of living crisis here. We're actually in a recession. And a lot of the brands that we've worked with and many brands that I've spoken to or consulted for are seeing some sort of year-on-year downturn because of these economic factors. But that doesn't mean every brand has experienced that. The goal to start 2025 was to continue year-on-year growth and to try and mitigate the natural Q1 downturn, as well as the downturn caused by the cost of living crisis after a big Q4 sales season. Most brands see a downturn after Q4. It's normal. Like I said, plenty of brands that we work with have seen a downturn in Q1, but it's about how you can mitigate the level of that downturn. It's natural. A lot of customers go and blow a lot of their money in Q4. Coming into Q1, you're going to see a downturn, but how can you mitigate that to keep sales as strong as they can be and get year-on-year growth? What matters is that you're not comparing your January performance to your December performance. You want to be comparing January 2025 to January 2024. And that's what we were comparing here. The goal was year-on-year growth, and we did exactly that. In January and February, Leelo has managed to grow 17% year-on-year, and email is primarily fueled that with 70% growth year on year. So by increasing the email channel by 70%, it's directly correlated to a total year on year growth of 17%, which is super, super solid for Q1. Considering the sort of economic factors going on here in Australia, we are facing a cost of living crisis. People are spending less and less money. That's the reality of it. You can't give people money to spend when they don't have any to spend. So competition gets tighter. There's less money circulating. All of our competitors are still operating. We're sort of splitting the pie with more people, or splitting a smaller pie with the same amount of competitors. So the fact that we were able to grow by 17% year on year when you're already doing 8 figures a year is really insane. And how did we do this? So I showed you sort of our BFCM strategy, but a bit of our business as usual strategy. Coming into BAU times after a sales season, so you've just exited Q4, you've just been absolutely flogging promotions, and most brands then fall into the trap of trying to chase more promotions to keep revenue high. They just become a boring billboard. They come out of Q4 and they go, oh, geez, what do we do with our email? Let's just whip together some campaigns. And they completely neglect nurturing. What this leads to is a lack of creativity, so your email list gets bored. You run too many desperate promotions, so you get an exhausted email list, and you completely neglect nurturing, which means you're not set up for 2025 sales season. You got to understand, success in Q4 starts earlier in the year. If you want to have a banging Q4, you're really going to be setting yourself up with nurturing habits and nurturing strategies from the start of the year. The best brands are already planning for Q4 just by installing good nurturing strategy. So these are 3 examples of 3 different topics we sort of covered in business as usual to keep our content fresh, nurture our audience, and not have to run crazy desperate promotions. So the first one, founder updates. One of the founders of Leelo Active actually has announced a pregnancy, and we announced this over email, which I will get to, but this absolutely banged. Exciting launches, new product launches, keeping this sort of fresh for the audience. It's important to roll out, especially in the fashion space, new launches and new collections to start a year. It's just going to keep your audience engaged. And pop culture references. We want to keep our content fresh and exciting. One of the biggest pop culture things on TikTok right now is the color theory. So leaning into this to really, I guess, lean into the desires of our audience and not just sell our products. Like, we're not selling activewear, we're selling a feeling, we're selling a lifestyle. That's exactly what we need to be doing here. Now, introducing the founders. I want to touch on this more because this is one of the best things that we've done for this brand, in my opinion. Bringing the founders into the brand has probably been one of the best moves Leelo has done in the past 6 months. Previously, these founders were quite anonymous and the brand was built off the back of other models, UGC, other sort of content creators. But alongside Leelo, we assisted in developing a strategy to move towards more founder-based, authentic content. People enjoy buying from people. And with the rising forces of Amazon, Temu, and every other dropshipper and activewear competitor, finding an edge through your own unique stories and personality is important. You need to be you. You need to market you as a person. Like I said, people like buying from people. You can't just rely on your products. You really need to put some personality and put a face behind the brand in 2025. And the best thing is, these founders aren't huge influencers, nor do they have lots of followers. You'd struggle to find these two on social media. Like, they're not 100,000 followers sort of influencers. But being raw and personal has allowed these founders to step into more of a face of the brand role, which has been great for the community. Like I said, we announced the pregnancy over email. They were happy to do that. We didn't push them into that by any means. I know it's a very personal thing to do, but they wanted Leelo. They wanted the Leelo community to feel a part of their lives, and they wanted to really immerse the community into things that were happening in their lives, struggles they were experiencing, exciting things that were happening, the family they're building together. And this pregnancy announcement was something that, came at a good time. We decided to roll with it, announce it over email, and we even made the news. We announced the pregnancy over email. Perth Now, local news, absolutely took the story and ran with it, which is crazy. It sort of shows the impact that sharing your personal lives, as long as you're comfortable, has on your brand and has on the community. Like I said, it comes down to people like buying from people. They would much rather buy from this Perth couple who is building an activewear brand than Temu, who's just selling some absolute crap. Now, the learnings here on the campaign side: consistency is key. You can't be sending 6 campaigns a month. We need to keep content fresh and creative. We need to be authentic, be our true selves. What do we stand for as a brand? And lastly, we want to keep our segmenting broad and make sure we're sending to everyone possible. Now, we've touched on the sign-up forms. We've touched on the campaigns. Let's dive into the flows here. So, we found gaps in the current customer journey through their flows. Upon initial analysis, it was clear that there was plenty of holes and weak points in the email flows. We systematically identified these and installed a plan to fix them. Now, realistically, what I mean by that is that we just ended up creating everything from scratch. We created a new welcome flow, a new active on-site flow, a new abandoned cart and checkout flow, new browse abandonment flows, and new thank you flows, and we had to fix their back and stock flow. There was tons that needed to be changed here, and we did that, and that definitely assisted in bringing up this customer journey. As you can see here, before we started working together, so in August and September, they had about 61% of revenue coming from flows and 38% coming from campaigns. Fast forward to January, February, they have 74% coming from their flows and 26% coming from campaigns. Now, the flows have developed a ton and become a leading driver of revenue, all while the absolute value coming from email marketing has also considerably risen. So this isn't just a shift in attribution where it's like campaigns have, dropped and flows have increased. It's the total revenue coming from email marketing has increased, campaigns have increased, but flows have also increased dramatically. So we're bringing a ton more revenue through the account, and a big driver of that has been the flows. So I just touched on the campaign strategy and how well that's done to, revitalize engagement, sell more through campaigns. But at the same time, the flows have also started to rip as we've changed the whole structure. Now, why did we build from scratch, or why do we feel the need to build from scratch? I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here. The reality here is any non-Klaviyo specialist who builds email flows does not know what they're doing. Full stack agencies do not know how to build email flows. I've audited hundreds of accounts managed by full stack agencies, and their flows are always horrendous. And why do I think that I know what I'm doing? Well, when I introduced myself at the start, I told you that I've worked on over 100 accounts, and that's not a lie. When you work on over 100 accounts, you very quickly get to see what works and what doesn't work. It's just mere exposure. Like, if I live inside Klaviyo accounts and I see flows for 100 accounts and I audit thousands of others, I get to see very, very quickly what works and what doesn't work. I'm in a unique position to be able to do that. Most full stack agencies have lots of clients, but they only upsell email as an odd add-on to a handful of them, which leaves the email channel neglected, but also drastically decreases the exposure these marketers get to the email channel. Now, I made a video the other day with my good friend Nathan. We were talking about the org chart of ecom brands. It's on my YouTube. You've probably seen it. One thing that we touched on is that an marketer working in a specialist agency will always be way more equipped to get better results on an individual channel than an in-house marketer or a full stack marketer. And it's just because of exposure to that channel. Just ruthless exposure. What would happen if you took someone from my team who right now is spending all their time on Klaviyo across numerous different accounts, and you put them inside one brand and said, hey, you're now the email manager for one ecom store? What would happen is their skill level would drop off dramatically as they're only exposed to one scenario. They only get to see one thing that's in front of them. They only get to see one account. They form confirmation bias. They don't sort of get to challenge their own ideas, develop new theories, and test ruthlessly. They just get bubbled into this one thought process, and it drastically decreases the rate in which they upskill and become better. So that's sort of a bit of a long-winded way to say these full stack agencies are getting dramatically less exposure to email marketing than email specialists like us. And I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but we simply live and breathe Klaviyo. It's like when you're developing your product as an ecom owner. I would not be able to come into your business and tell you what you need to do to get a product ready to go to market or to design the perfect product. I would have no idea what to do. That's your domain. You work on that each and every day. You've developed all your products. You know exactly what needs to happen to get things to where they need to be to launch a good product, which is quality with your suppliers and your supply chain. Well, I know exactly what needs to happen to build really good email flows. It's just exposure. It's just what we're good at. Does that mean we have perfect flows? Not at all. Not at all. I want to specify that. Flows are never complete. The next stage of building your flows, once they're built, is to ruthlessly A/B test nearly every aspect of these flows. At the time of writing for Leelo, we're running A/B tests in 6 different flows. We don't let our confidence turn to ego. We relentlessly try to prove ourselves wrong in the flows every single week by looking for edges and testing. Now, if you're a brand doing sort of mid 7 figures, 8 figures, or 9 figures, the upside of just testing your email flows and having someone at the wheel who knows what they're doing to test these flows is going to be monumental. Like, there's no reason why you can't improve your flow performance by 10, 20% year on year. And if your flows are generating 100, 200 grand a month, like a 10 to 20% swing is massive over the course of the year because those results compound and get better and better and better. So it's very, very important that you're relentlessly trying to prove yourself wrong in flows every single week by looking for edges in the testing. So how do we go about building our flows? We start with what we know works. Like I said, I have a good structure that I know works based on what we've rolled out on hundreds of accounts. Then we try to prove ourselves wrong by A/B testing every single week. Inevitably, we prove ourselves wrong multiple times. Like I said, we're not perfect. We're not right. I guarantee you, I will roll out a flow this coming week on an ecom store, or I'll roll out an A/B test on a flow rather this coming week, and I will prove myself wrong. One thing that I think is going to work won't work. The opposite will happen. I will then validate that test, and we'll move on and go from there. We inevitably prove ourselves wrong, but for the greater good. We then conclude these tests and roll out new ones. Now, we have an infinite loop of improvement from a really strong starting point. I guarantee if you have a full stack agency running your flows and you go in there, they're going to be half built, there's going to be no tests, and they won't be able to tell you one high leverage test they're running right now. So when you follow our method and you A/B test relentlessly and have this mindset of proving yourself wrong, you get results like these. This is a screenshot directly from their Klaviyo focusing on their flows from February 3rd to March 5th. Look at that. That is no joke. Like, you can't make these numbers up. These numbers are straight from the account. 28,000 deliveries. You can tell it's an 8-figure brand by the amount of traffic going through in this 30-day period. 48%, 71%, 28%, 75%, 127%. These are massive improvements in flows just by A/B testing. It's ginormous and it's outweighed effort. You put in A/B tests into your flows, you know what you're doing, you're going to see huge upside. Now, let's touch on the results 6 months in. So we improved the sign-up form, completely changed their campaign strategy, kept the content fresh, introduced the founders, took on a more authentic angle, completely rebuilt their flows, and A/B tested their flows ruthlessly. This leads to a point where email is up 89% year on year over the total 6 months we're together. So if you look at November to March, the brand is up 56% year on year, and email is up 89, just about 90% year on year. Without giving away numbers, for an 8-figure brand, that is more than 7 figures in additional yearly revenue from the email channel. That's a massive improvement. 90% year on year is like, that's completely overhauling your retention strategy. If you took any ecom brand 6 months ago and said, in the next 6 months, we're going to improve your retention, or we're going to improve the revenue attributed to your retention channels by 89%, this is what happens. Total revenue looks to improve by 56% year on year. So November through to March 2024, 2025 completely blew 2023 to 2024 out the window. So very, very strong results here. Now, if you've made it this far and you are an e-com store doing over 7 figures a year in sales, I have an offer for you. We'll give you a completely free Klaviyo audit and roadmap. I believe this is one of the biggest opportunities for the right brands to really stand out over email and nail their customer retention in 2025. We're working with a lot of really good brands right now. We're doing a lot of really good things, and I truly am passionate about helping stores improve their retention. I think it's something that is going to be a really big year for us and the brands we work with, and I'm very excited to offer this to you, especially because ads are only getting more and more expensive. It's time to have the best retention strategies in place. Not enough people in Australia have good retention strategies. I've had 9-figure brands come through who have no customer retention strategy, 8-figure brands who have retention strategies managed by full stack marketers or in-house managers who really don't know what they're doing or don't know how to move the needle. So we want to help you kickstart this process ASAP. Book a free audit session with us below. We'll analyze your current Klaviyo. We'll identify the areas of opportunity, put together a personalized action plan to scale your account and give you specific, clear action steps. Now, we only need 15 minutes of your time to get analyst access. Then we'll prepare the audit and send it straight to you. I also want to stress that this is a no obligation opportunity. I want to give you the free audit and the free roadmap. There's no guarantees that you're a good fit to work with us, and there's no guarantees that we're a good fit to work with you. Maybe you don't like what we present. Maybe we audit your account and we don't think it's a good fit and we don't think there's enough upside to work with us. So this is purely a free audit and a free roadmap with no obligation, no sort of strings attached. Jump on the call in 15 minutes. We'll get the access we'll need. We'll prepare the audit and we can go from there. If that sounds good, click the button below this video and we'll get it going. Looking forward to chat with you. Thanks for watching the video.